Verbal vibration. 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 Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Verbal Vibrations, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network. I am your host, Mr. Speaker, because I'm a knowledge and light seeker. We are here to bring you even more of some of the most powerful writers, speakers, MCs, and poets you have ever heard. Today, wow, we got a guy that has been all over. He's lived on the West Coast, and now he lives in the middle of America. His name is Mr. Wayne Henry. We're going to take you to Wayne's world with Mr. Wayne Henry. So hold on to your seats and let's enjoy the magic and the power of some spoken word poetry here on the KUDZUKIAN Network, because poetry is where every thought you have in your mind becomes tangible as it moves toward becoming reality. So come back in about 2 minutes for Mr. Wayne Henry. Verbal vibration. 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 Vibration.
3.
Entering into 40, I still had the same 30 and below confidence.
B.
In a bar, in your own home.
C.
You just feel unseen. And it's like, wait, what happened? Like 2 days ago, I was the
3BC. 3 Black Chicks on the KUDZUKIAN Network. KUDZUKIAN!
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Verbal Vibrations. My name is James Sears, Mr. Speaker, here powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network. Today, I'm so excited to have Mr. Wayne Henry. Wayne Henry of Wayne's World. Heard this poet. This poet will knock you out of your seats if you're sitting. He'll knock you off your feet if you're standing. This guy can deliver some spoken word. So, Mr. Henry, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Mr. Speaker. I'm doing good. Blessed and highly favored.
Man, it's so good to have you on, man. It's good to see, you doing this thing and what you're doing for the world. So what I first want to ask you is, talk to us about your journey to poetry, where you came to poetry, the early you.
Oh, man. The first poem I heard wasn't a poem. It was Tupac's Keep Your Head Up. And I'm not really a fan of hip hop, right? During that time. And I just couldn't stop listening to the song. And my dad told me, he was like, you're in love with the words. You don't care about the beats or the instrumental, it's the words. And he called it prose. So I was about 9 or 10. And from that day on, I just started writing my own raps, little notes to myself. And I kind of fell asleep on poetry by the time I hit 20. I would say maybe 8 years later, when I was 28, 29, I started to, 27 to 28. That's when I picked up the pen again and realized like this is something I truly love.
Okay, so you really fell into poetry when you were in Dallas, and then here you are now, moved away from home where you were in the South Central.
Yeah,
and
so
now
in South Central,
poet.
I was in South Central. I was born and raised in South Central, so I fell in love with poetry then, but I didn't actively start getting on stages and performing until I moved to Dallas. I moved to Dallas like 2008, 2009. My first time on stage was 2015.
No, talk to me about that, bro. What happened when you got on the stage the first time?
All right. So they have open mics and then they have slams. When I went, the open mic was all filled up. And they was like, but you can be in a slam. I had no clue what a slam was. I go up there, I'm reading off my sheet of paper. I won that slam, and I was like, I got addicted. I got addicted to it. At Heroes Lounge out here in Dallas, Texas, I just kept going. It's something about being on that stage and telling my story, and not so much for people's approval, but just let them know where I come from, getting them to understand or relate to what I'm doing, right? You can hate my poems or say you don't like them, but as long as you understand where I'm coming from, I did my job.
All right. So let's right there is where I want to be. So you're listening to Verbal Vibrations powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network. And so, Mr. Wayne Henry, why would you give us one of those poems then?
Arachnophobia is a fear of spiders. Astrophobia is a fear of thunder and lightning. Glossophobia is a fear of public speaking. But to me, the most interesting phobia there is has got to be theophobia. Now, see, theophobia is a fear of both God and religion. I imagine that this is the phenomenon that occurs when an officer said that he pulled the trigger because he was in fear of his life, that a black man with his hands up, reaching, preaching for peace, reminded him of Jesus Christ or bad religion. They say fear causes irrational reaction. So instead of apprehending him, they end him in the middle of the street with his neighbors and disciples, watching his mother scrub his blood from the pavement, cursing heaven for giving her a son that were going to a man just to become a forsaken martyr, murdered because we look like the Messiah. And then they post us on social media like a hashtag will roll the stone from in front of their tombs and resurrect them from the dead because of the deeds of their ancestors. Now, isn't that how phobias work? To hate what you can't conquer, to fear what you don't understand. Isn't that the theory of some badge and gun-holding men like Caesar and his Romans, sent to protect and serve, but instead use brute force to oppress a people that reminded them of a God that they created in their image? Or how a KKK swastika looks like a running cross, elbows and knees bent, burning to escape salvation, terrified that God just might be father to the black boys and girls that they murder. How a hoodie and fitted cap reminds them of a crown of thorns and a halo. How if a black man knows his rights, they will look at you as if you just gave sight to the blind. How black men walk like Jesus, treading water, but they call it thin ice. You know, a dangerous situation, a reason to save themselves from the savior. They heard stories how he fed 5,000 people with 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. It sounded like a black man driving a fancy car in the middle of the projects, or a black man making $1 out of 15 cents. It sounded suspicious, like Jesus and his miracles. I mean, suspect. I mean, divine. I mean, criminal. I mean, I know I fit the description. My head and hair of wool, my skin a burnt bronze, my eyes a fire flame. I mean, black man magic ain't witchcraft. I mean, I could freeze, but it wouldn't drop my godliness. I mean, theophobia is getting the best of you. I mean, don't crucify me because of your fears. I mean, officer, your bullet will kiss me like Judas. I mean, I'm unarmed. I mean, don't shoot. I mean, I'm not your Messiah. That's that piece.
Woo-wee, bruh, that was fire on fire. So I'm so stuck. I'm so stuck on that crazy line of the cross, the swastika looking like a cross running. What in the world?
It does though, right?
Man, yes. It's like, oh my. I'm like, I kind of got stuck there. I heard the rest of the poem, but I just kept leaping back to this cross running.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And so later on, in the next segment, I'm gonna talk to you extensively about your connection, how you have through your poems connected spirituality with your poetry. But the cross running, as I look at all those things are wrapped around the cross itself and how sometimes wrong it is as a symbol that you're not supposed to be worshiping, idolizing. And then they morphed it into a cross running as a swastika that you shouldn't. It's so many things to that, bro. You're telling stories and you're moving emotions in such a way, bro. I know you know how powerful that is, right?
I like to, yeah, I do.
All right, bro. So this is the KUDZUKIAN Network, Verbal Vibrations. We are here. Mr. Wayne Henry just gave us a killer poem where he had the cross running and the legs on the cross broke into a swastika, just showing all that good stuff. We're going to take a short break and we'll come right back with more of Mr. Wayne Henry.
Black Nerd Power. I love games, board games, comics, beautiful things that portray Black girls as soft and whimsical and cotton candy flowers. And so that is what I bring to the show, as well as cuss words for these raggedy when they need them.
Oh my
Such
goodness.
as this raggedy that we getting ready to introduce you to right now.
Oh my
This red
goodness.
fox looking,
Oh.
this bald head, confident talking about Richard
Goodness.
Douglas Jones.
My goodness, this is the worst intro I've ever had in my life, ladies and gentlemen. Black Nerd Power on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
I get it. Why racist white people see me and think beast. The dreadlock next monster America fears will make a Miley Cyrus out with the hand of Montana. Or the jigaboo boogeyman lurking in the closet of white fears must be fallen angels slipped from the grip of Jesus. So call me spook, then turn to me ghost, demonic heathen. Make you squeeze the holy scripture out your Bible when you see me walking in your direction while you do your best not to make eye contact, and I can't blame you. Moses couldn't look at the burning bush either. It's not of this world. This black skin be the backdrop in which God hung the galaxy, and every star that shines to this flesh I call home. You're scared. You're scared because you can't colonize the galaxy or place a Starbucks on my shoulder to gentrify my heaven. This black skin bleeds resistance. It smells like Osage Avenue engulfed in flames. The black back that split the masses whip into a revolution. They pray we don't make kings of ourselves. But the truth behind that fear is that this black skin reminds them of Genesis and the darkness that came before everything. This dark skin, so beautiful, so brilliant, so bright that even God said, let there be light. Just so they racist ass could see it. That's that piece.
All right, bro. I'm trying not to laugh at that last line. All right. This is Verbal Vibrations powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network. And you're listening to Mr. Wayne Henry, who created Wayne's World. And I am Mr. Speaker, your host. And so now we're going to discuss some other things of Mr. Wayne Henry. So let's wow, that poem right there. Let's go to the poems. The way you have connected poetry and religion. Did you grow up in the church?
Yeah, my father was a deacon.
Yeah.
My father was a deacon, and I hated going to church. I haven't been to church in years, over a decade. But
really, hold on, bro. Really? Because when you spit, what you spitting? You spitting the word that is down inside you. You might not have been in that physical building, but it's still coming out you. But I'm sorry.
Funny thing is, my dad. I have 7 brothers. When we were little, my dad picked all our professions, and he said he knew what my brother was going to be. He knew what I was going to be. He told me, "You're going to be a pastor. You're going to be a preacher." And I'm like, "Yeah, right." And he saw me perform for the first time a few years ago, and he said, "I told you to become a pastor." I don't actively read the Bible anymore, but what being submerged in it through my entire childhood, it's hard for me to write a poem and not have a biblical reference in it, man. I can't do it. It's the synonyms to me. The gospel and spoken word are synonyms. I can't explain what I'm going through without relying back on my religious upbringings.
Yes, bro. I walk those shoes. I walk those shoes literally. But I would tell you, we all have growth. We all are growing, learning, and evolving. But going into church is one thing. Having the church in you is a totally different thing. And you got church in you. So I just man. So in light of that, and then you now mix in the racial tension.
Yes.
Let's talk about that dynamic and what you're using poetry to speak the truth in regards to your revolutionary thoughts of racial tension and religious growth.
Man, I'm gonna be completely honest. California is not perfect, right? There's racial tension out there, but it's subtle. It's micro racism, you know? It wasn't until I came to the South and I'm like, oh, people are really like this. Like, they are literally scared when they see me. I'm back when I was in LA, I was getting in all kind of stuff, man. Like you couldn't. I was hell on wheels, and I could move to Dallas, and I'm living right. I get stopped at least once a month, and I'm like, the terrifying thing to me is that every time I'm stopped by an officer, I see the fear in their eyes. And I despise the fact that I have to make myself less threatening. I don't know how to do that. I can't turn my melanin down. I can't not be 6'4". Like, I don't know how to make you feel comfortable, officer. How about you don't pull me over for some BS? And you wouldn't have to put yourself through this. And I used to think it was hatred. It's not hatred. It's fear. It's fear. Hatred is too much. It's complete fear. It's fear. Fear makes you dislike and have this hatred for somebody. Fear is the root of all evil, not money. Fear.
Yeah. So, but you're on top of it. We were talking about this during our break, but let's talk about you becoming poetically alive, let's say in Texas, and then going home going to your place of birth, California. Let's talk about that experience.
Oh, man. So I joined the Dallas Poetry Slam team in 2016. And from then, I've been like traveling the world, and a lot of poets know my name. And so I met a poet at one of the national events, and he was like, "Where are you from? You have this accent about you." And I'm like, "I'm from LA." He's like, "You mean to tell me you out here repping Dallas and you really from LA?
Look out.
You need to come home. You need to come home and show they made this whole week, right? The entire week, every night was a different show in a different place. They had like the prodigal son had to turn, and it was beautiful because a lot of my poems are very, if you're not from LA, sometimes it'll go over your head. So to do those poems in the streets that made me and molded me, that gave me a lot of my way of thinking now, I felt like they appreciated it more than they did when here in Dallas. When I start in poems, I start naming streets and projects and gangs. Dallas, they'll go along with it because they know what I'm talking about. But in LA, they like, we live it. We stay around the corner from the havoc you're talking about. And it was amazing. I didn't want to leave, but Dallas is my home now. But doing that in my home city, my hometown, in front of my OGs and my family members, that's probably some of the best time I spent on stage. And I had them, I had my homeboys. I'm like, hey, y'all need to come through, check me out, and be at the spot up the street. I'm like, we don't do spoken, we don't do poetry. I said, this ain't that roses are red, violets are blue shit. Like, come through, and I'm gonna give y'all that work. So they ended up coming through, and they loved it. They loved it.
Yeah, I think we're going to talk about that in our next segment, bruh. The stigmas in poetry. But you're listening to Verbal Vibrations, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network. We're going to take a short break, and we're coming back to more Mr. Wayne Henry.
Riffing on jazz.
Nice.
That's the way to start a show.
It is the way to start a show.
Now, what's this LL Cool J about?
LL Cool J is an acronym. I love acronyms. This acronym stands for Ladies Love Cool Jazz.
Riffing on jazz on the KUDZUKIAN Network. KUDZUKIAN.
Welcome back to Verbal Vibrations, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network. I'm Mr. Speaker, your host. We are having an in-depth conversation with Mr. Wayne Henry. Our discussion has been about how he has evolved in poetry. What we're going to discuss right now is that word poetry and trying to talk about poetry or invite your friends that you grew up with in the inner city and other places that have that melanin in their skin, and you're saying, come to a poetry event with me, and their reaction to you. Let's go, bruh.
They look at me like I'm crazy. Like, we don't do that roses are red, violets are blue. And you know how we tease each other, and they'll make up like a fake line. I'm like, nah, like if you take your time. I've never invited somebody to a poetry show and afterwards they're like, oh, I'm never doing this again. That's never been the reaction. Their minds are always blown. And I think it's so important for people of color, men and women, mainly men, because we have stubborn ways of viewing things, you know?
It's us.
And I'm like, you come here, I promise you it's going to change your mind, right? And I had some friends growing up that were just stuck in their way. So there were some poets there that was doing a poem about homosexuality. And I can see the physical discomfort in them during the poem. But by the time the poem ended, they were looking like, damn, he's right. You know, like it's educational. Like if you're listening, depending on the poet and the way they're giving their message, you can really learn a different perspective from other people's lives just by hearing it, man. And we got to step out that box of just only rap and 90s R&B. I don't do this, I don't do that. Do it and watch it change your life. It changed my life.
It's a definite teaching moment. Every time you spit, it's a teaching moment. I think this, and if my girl was here, Cassandra is free, she would say that you are what she called me didactic in the sense that we teach when we spit. But what I want you to talk about now is your work with the youth, and then that whole realm about you. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, so I'm a contracted worker through Dallas Independent School District, and what I do is I go to different campuses throughout the week to teach spoken word and poetry to students. I had the privilege of working at it's called Promise House. It's actually a homeless shelter for youth, Black men mainly there, and changing their worlds. There was a specific thing I like to do is I asked them if they know who Nas is. And like the newer generation, they say, oh, Lil Nas X. I'm like, no, the real Nas, right? So what I do is I play them If I Ruled the World by Nas and Lauryn Hill. And I tell them to listen to the song, right? Just listen to it. And then when they're done, when the song is over, I ask them to write, if you ruled the world, what would you change? And I have the song on repeat in the background while they're writing. And when they're done, I actually want to stand up, volunteer your poem, volunteer your work. They're all eager. I want to read mine. So they get up and they're like, can you play the beat? I'm like, no, you don't need the beat, just read it. You know, and they'll read it. And then at the end of the class, I'm like, so thank y'all for having me. My name is Wayne. I'm a poet, blah, blah. They were like, what? We was doing poems. I'm like, yeah, you enjoyed it though. You had fun, didn't you? And they can't wait for me to come back. And sometimes you got to trick them. Man. I come in jamming Big Crit or Andre the Outcast. And I'm like, yeah, write to it. Because it's hard. It's hard to be like, hey, y'all want to learn poetry?
Yeah, you got to fight them to it. But there's Verbal Vibrations, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network. And what we need right now, Mr. Wayne Henry, is another poem from you, brother.
So this poem is a poet's attempt at honesty. Honestly, I have to get really drunk to write about my life and put it in a poem. It's like Hennessy and tequila numbs the hurt of truth as it hurricanes through my teeth. My truth is fire and brimstone raining down from the eyes of heaven. So I make umbrellas out of my insecurities just to stand there in the flames. My addiction to burning beautifully makes me believe that some days I'm not the poet of my poems, that my demons take hold of my pen and scribble agony across my face like war paint. No, honestly, I write love letters for angels to give to God because I'm too afraid to face him personally. More afraid that he might just be one giant vanity mirror reflecting all my flaws that he created in his image, my beautiful bipolar Jesus, but I digress. I have a habit of picking my own scabs or scratching to the sight of blood. My mother tells me it's something I do out of nervousness. My ex says it's me obsessing over scars before they occur, that I'm just afraid to be beautiful. But honestly, beautiful things rather be avoided and left alone than to be loved just to become broken. No, honestly, beautiful things, they dream about one day becoming monsters. Because monsters can never be weak or vulnerable or anything that makes us look like victims, because victims stand out like the nose of Pinocchio when placed on the lap of Geppetto and asks, how does it feel to be alive? How does it feel to be a real boy? No, honestly, Some victims grow to be 6'4", dark-skinned baritone poets screaming for help in between the safety of metaphors, help, looking for words that make being molested as a child feel like a spiritual masculine cleansing of the fingerprints, breath, and saliva escaping the confines of my pores, help. I hide pain like treasure in chest, a prisoner in rib cage, help. I grow tired of slicing my silence on similes and soliloquy because help is too weak of a word for a batshit crazy black man. Still insane enough to believe that one day he can be loved because my two lips have a habit of kissing a woman's temple into demolition. Then I try to rebuild her from the rubble like I didn't just ruin everything she structured to make me smile. So honestly, I'm a black cloud, raining inside of a glass house, begging to break out before I break down, and all that can be found are whispers of my poems that never had a chance to make a sound because heaven sends me love letters with no return address. So it feels like I'm writing myself in hopes to write myself, and I'm not sure if God is proud of the mess I make of me. So if ever my poems sound like prayers, it's because I stand on stage and pretend that you are the ears of heaven. And these words are the shadow of my crucifixion, nailing myself to a microphone. No, honestly, these poems are really a gift from a poet too broken, too tired, and honestly too sober to continue fighting them alone. But thank you for washing away my sins, carrying all of my burdens. At the end of my poems, I pretend that you are heaven. At the end of my poems, I pretend that you are my God. Thank you.
Oh my goodness, brother. I wish we could go for a couple hours on that poem alone, that I'm not the poet of my poems. It's oh my God. So ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. Wayne Henry of Wayne's World. Please, brother, tell us where we can connect with you via your social media.
You can follow me on Instagram at dreadful_poet. That's DREADFUL_POET. And on there is where I post all of my merch and different events I have coming up. So if you're interested, inbox me, DM me, ask me about my next show or what books I have to sell, and I'll be gladly help you out with that.
Your next show is you're going to be on this poetry slam that's for his $1,000 in
yes, indeed.
April.
Yes,
but
indeed.
I want to thank you for gracing this mic and doing what you do and taking poetry to the next level. I appreciate you, Mr. Wayne Henry. This has been Verbal Vibrations. Man, I'm out of time. I don't have enough time to talk to you, brother. I feel like we're connected.
We're going to link up. We
got you, man. But I appreciate you. I appreciate your words. I appreciate your heart and your spirit. Keep doing what you're doing. And thank you for being here on Verbal Vibrations, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Thank y'all for having me. Peace and love.
Thank you.
I'll play the blues for you.
You've been dancing on this one. Listening to Blues in the Basement, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network. This is our Chitlin Circuit Jams
and I'm
show.
loving every minute of it.
Drop that zero.
Blues in the Basement. I'm Leon Gray.
And I'm Cookie B.
We'll be back with more of the show after this.
The thrill is gone.
Blues in the Basement, part of the KUDZUKIAN Network.
The thrill is gone away.
KUDZUKIAN.
Thank you for listening to one more show of Verbal Vibrations. This is Mr. Speaker here on Verbal Vibrations, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network. And I'm going to close with a poem of Who Am I? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I realize many of you don't know me. I can tell by your blank stare. My name is James. Poetically, I'm called Mr. Speaker, but professionally, I'm normally called Sir or Colonel because, see, I'm a modern day Buffalo Soldier, you might say. So that means on the 1st and the 15th of each month, well, now, baby, that's when I get paid by the Army. But see, that's not all because, see, I also collect rents. Kentucky, Virginia, and Georgia are the states where my money is sent. See, I train soldiers, give them orders, and lead them as we protect our homes and residence. Check this. Some of my orders come directly from the United States president. Look, I shake hands with people like I'm running for a political position. I've dined with kings, played dominoes with waiters, and defeated some of the best military competition. I've traveled the world so much that right now I have 3 different types of foreign currency in my pocket. I've driven 160 miles per hour on a German Autobahn, and it felt like a rocket. Since I graduated, I've never been unemployed, as I have needs that I must feed. Yes, I said graduated, because to walk in these boots means you're going to need at least a master's degree. WKU in Central Michigan, where I put my university work in before I left Smoketown. College educated, paid with street credibility, no doubt. See, now that's how a true leader gets down. Started out as an enlisted soldier, been an artilleryman, seen Lieutenant Dan, and been called a major pain a long time ago. Yes, I'm an American guardian and lifesaver. But to all you gold diggers, this soldier's not your Captain Save-A-Hole. Because, see, I've been making a living some of the history you've been hearing and reading about. But the fact is, you cannot believe everything in the media, and that's no doubt. Check it. Minorities commit 20% of the local crime. And that fact is crystal clear. But minority crimes get 70% of the media play, which is how they keep a lot of people in fear. Look, it is 2021, people, and the U.S. is trying to lead the free world once more. While it is clear that some people have not even realized that the South actually lost the Civil War. See, I'm not afraid. As I put my work in daily, have excellent credit and high clout. Check your records and you will see I'm that man Salt and Pepper once rapped about. Strong Kappa man. Never been incarcerated and still looking for my queen. Been a military leader is hard work, so I cannot have just anyone on my team. Let me put it in a nutshell and give my description a little twist. So hold on to your seats as I run it down like this. I'm a spiritually grounded out front leader and an expert logistician, skilled, motivated, extensively educated, and gifted mathematician. I'm 100% fit to fight, a combat veteran, certified expert with either hand, deadly sniper, African heritage, widely traveled, yo, I'm an all-American. Arrogant, possibly conceited, may be feared, better be respected, definitely paid, have to get the politically jock, formerly comfort, extremely blessed, both spiritually and physically. Strapped, always, noob, everyday hero, some say, on target all day, standing tall, not afraid, run. No freaking way. Well, that is unless I'm chasing you. And if I am, ain't really much you can do. So run, hide. I'll find you. And ain't no doubt. And when I catch you, I'll make you talk and tell all you know with torture techniques you ain't even heard about. Face it, I am the closest most of you all will ever get to war. So sit down and listen when I grab the mic and take the floor. Look, I've heard what singers like Destiny's Child said and what some of them other rappers told you. But get it straight. It's me, not those street thugs who's a real live modern day Buffalo soldier. It's my job to stand strong. Look danger in the eye. Never quit while I can fight. Without soldiers like me, you can bet your freedoms we lost in less than 7 nights. Since 1990, I've been representing the United States Army, both nationally and worldwide. See, that's what can happen to a man who understands the true meaning of fire new pot. So take a deep breath and think of me when you relax at home all safe tonight, because it's your homegrown Kappa soldier, leader of the pack and protector of your freedoms and your rights. Good night.
Verbal Vibrations, hosted by James Mr. Speaker Sears, directed, produced, recorded, and distributed by KUDZUKIAN.